spend some time in having some conversations. And I think hopefully we'll have the hearing on the same night, so we can get all the issues out on the table and make our case to the BAR, and hopefully they'll agree with us. If not, maybe we'll work something else out. Who knows?
Since the deadline was today, or is today, it's
8 o'clock tonight.
We still got time?
We still have time. An hour.
A preemptive packet has been dropped off to the Rye assessor as of about 3 o'clock this afternoon, which obviously can always be withdrawn if that's what the commission wishes.
That was just to preserve.
But we had to preserve our right because the meeting ends at 8 o'clock. This meeting probably will end at 8 o'clock, and we would never have the time to file the documents and preserve our right. So that's, in essence, the only avenue that we had at the time.
Do you have a question, Joe?
I just have one thought based on something that you said, which I thought was interesting, which is you indicated that the town of Rye is the owner of the park. And on that basis, you said the town of Rye had filed a grievance.
No, we'll be filing. We're filing two. We're going to file one for the town of Rye and one for the commission.
Well, right. So the town of Rye has filed one, or will file one. And it's because the town of Rye is the owner of the property that they have standing to do so in the first place.
But they don't control it. I have to admit.
Well, that's the second part of my question. But
It's
the
a
first
very
part
odd.
is,
Candid with you, it's a very odd situation because the state law says that this goes back to this was a condemned property back in 1907, and the state law says that the commissioners, the three they called them at the time the presidents of these municipalities, were authorized to take this land in condemnation, and then they created the commission, which has exclusive control over the property, although it says that it is seized in fee in the town of Rye. So it's technically the town can't act independent of the commission. It's one of those odd legal anomalies.
well, I mean, certainly I get that we all up here as members of the Rye Town Park Commission administer and manage the park. But I guess the distinction I'm trying to draw is, and I honestly don't know the answer, but I'm asking based on what you said. Isn't it the right of the property owner to file the grievance and not a party that has no interest in the property like the Rye Town Park Commission?
Under normal circumstances, yes, but I wouldn't say you have no interest because the basis of the assessment is the lease agreement, the licensing agreement with Seaside Johnny's, which your commission entered into. So, for example, were there no agreement with Seaside Johnny's, there'd be no assessment and there'd be no challenge. So it would be, it's impossible to disconnect the two because you are Rye Town Park, right? So it's hard to disconnect the commission and the town.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know if I have enough information to agree or disagree with you, but I see your point. I guess, do you think that the town of Rye, as a municipal entity, has an interest in ensuring that the Rye Town Park Commission is on the hook, so to speak, for whatever tax bill comes in?
No, because you're on the hook anyway. Only you can authorize expenditures, only you can authorize and accept revenues. So technically the town of Rye is not on the hook for the money per se, you are, the commission. Because the commission, according to the state law, has exclusive control over everything, including, by the way, the acquisition of additional land, which was in 1933 when they again amended the law, which they did about 8 times, to put in that only the commissioners could agree. Now, I don't know if they were contemplating getting additional land on Forest Avenue or why they did that, but only you can make decisions pertaining to acquisition of land. So you are really the trustees of this park, and as the trustees, I don't think we could bring a bar challenge without your consent.
I mean, certainly I would never begrudge any property owner the right to contest.
No, I understand. I have to agree that this will require a little more research on our part because it is a bit of an anomaly. I agree, but it's a hybrid. You have to understand that things changed when Rye City became a city in the late 40s. The law changed again, but technically, you are the custodians of Rye Town Park, and nothing can happen there without your consent or your approval.
Well, did you say that we both the commission and also the town of Rye Council has to approve it? There'll be 2 separate filings.
Yeah,
they're meeting at 8 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, we're going to file.
Will that be a problem?
Joe Carbon, as the supervisor, is the executive of the town. chief executive of
So
the
he
town.
doesn't need the approval of the council, will we?
Well, we're gonna have to ratify it.
Again, the filings, the actual documents
Right,
have
and
been filed preemptively because
You're right.
of the timing.
Right.
The question of whether you continue to pursue the case is subject to the approval of both boards.
So, I mean, I think effectively, if this commission or the subsequent board decided not to file, we'd simply withdraw the application. I think
Yeah,
it's fine.
you just withdraw the application.
Any other questions, Mr. Noto? Okay, can I get a motion? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Francis, you want to say that?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate before you came. The CRI is structured where the assessor is autonomous from the city council, reports to our city manager. Councilman Sack and I get on June 1st the assessment roll where we find out what her evaluation is. So this is not a decision that the Rye City Council had made and asked her to do. So, given the nature of our role on this board, part of the process is that everybody has the right to file a grievance and be heard before our Board of Assessment Review, which are members of the City of Rye. So I'm all in favor of this board and its right to file a grievance. Although I do think I should probably recuse myself from any kind of vote in that nature.
Thank you very much.
I agree, it's awkward then.
Thank you very much.
You know,
Was I going to make a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to have Bishop Nowanek act as agent on behalf of the Wrightown Park Commission to sign and file a grievance for the real property assessment of Wrightown Park
Hey, a
on this
second.
date.
Okay?
Actually, we're filing two. We're grieving both the loss of the exemption as public property, and then we're also grieving the number, the 23A figure. So we're filing two grievances.
As amended.
Just a clarification, we're grieving the 39 million number.
No, it's actually the 39 million, which is the overall park assessment.
Right.
And then the fact that we lost the exemption on public property.
Correct.
Right.
All right, so with that clarification, was there a second?
Second.
Okay. And Commissioner French?
Abstain.
Abstain. Feinstein?
Yes.
Salanitro?
Yes.
Sack?
I'll follow Mayor French's lead in abstaining, but
Okay.
I would also, just before we move on, just like to indicate that I have no reason to, at this point, dispute the determination made by the Rye City Assessor, and in fact, in our experience, she makes the correct determinations, and this is certainly something that's going to be litigated and will ultimately be decided in the courts if it goes to litigation, but by abstaining, I'm not disavowing the decision of the Rye City Assessor. In fact, I would otherwise support it. But I will also follow Mayor French's lead and abstain from this vote.
Okay, and Commissioner Pilla?
I'm sorry, I'm joining you in process. What's the recommendation of staff on this?
This is
It's to
the
file.
motion to file a bar challenge.
And
So the votes so far are,
recommendations to do it here?
both Commissioner Sack and French have recused themselves. Mayor Feinstein, Commissioner Salanitro.
I apologize for
Sure.
arriving
No,
late.
yeah, sure.
Supervisor.
Oh, no problem, I
In
understand.
a nutshell, Mayor, the city has lifted our public exemption and is assessing seaside grounds. So we are challenging both the loss of the exemption and the actual value they described.
At the very least, I think, we're doing this direction, increase due diligence on whatever the bottom line number is, so we'd be set to be based on that. So I go with the
Yes?
yes.
And Carvin?
Yes.
Okay.
Before you leave, Town Attorney, thank you, everybody. Town Attorney, before you leave, I'm just understanding why we're even bothering to file a bar challenge. I mean, didn't when they set up the commission in the town, wasn't this issue addressed?
Well, we believe it was in the 1907 law, but quite frankly, I don't know if the city has access or has looked at all of the laws affecting the park. But the law requires you, when you challenge an assessment, you must file a bar challenge as a predicate for bringing in Article 7. So, just to
Okay.
protect our
Well,
rights.
That's
we
my
have no
question,
choice.
because, I would have thought, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the bar's going to
sort of
give us,
like,
correct.
I'm not a lawyer, like some of the people here, but I would have thought that, you almost go straight to court, because in other words, The
No.
fact that you're discussing the value of the property is, in my view, nonsense, because the property shouldn't be assessed at all.
Well, but if we lose the argument on whether it should be assessed at all, then the fallback position is the number's too high, and then we argue about the numbers, so.
And that's what happened in the Osborne case.
Right,
The
exactly.
city won it, it was in fact taxable. It was no longer exempt, but then we lost the valuation of the property. So, and again, that was the trigger for the assessor to start to review other properties.
Great, thank you, Town Attorney Noto. Good time for comments from the public. Just please. Yep. Just come on up and introduce yourself and tell us your name.
My name is Michael Lapidus. I'm with Precision Technology Solutions. I'd like to thank the Commission for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I'm actually speaking about, with regards to item 9 on the agenda, the right-hand park automation. We had submitted a pricing for a parking revenue control provider in North Jersey. We had submitted some pricing several months back with the original RFP that was put out, which was a very general RFP. We did our due diligence and visited the site several times, came to an initial meeting with Bishop and such. We stayed in contact with Bishop throughout the process, and heard that the lowest bidder was in communication with Ryan. They were having some discussions about what it originally was. Then we could go back out to RFP. We received a copy of it. We began our due diligence again, began another proposal, and then we started doing a little more research. We found some information online that was different than what we heard at the original meeting as far as pay upon entry, pay upon exit, different variations. I don't want to get into it, but of everyone's time, waste everybody's time. As such, we actually met with one of the other vendors who we work with, and we were going to partner with them to submit a proposal, a revised proposal. We submitted an RFI for some clarifications of some pretty significant points which would severely affect the value. I mean, it could have changed it anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, and we didn't feel right to the town of Rye to be able to submit a proposal, possibly coming in on make up a number of $70,000, when in reality, what you guys wanted was a $170,000 proposal. These were such as where your construction costs would be, did you want to give people change? There was a number of significant items that we submitted. We submitted, I think, the Thursday or Friday before the RFP was due. We spoke with Bishop on a couple of occasions. We did not get a response to that. There was some question as to the time of it, and all we're seeking at this point is, it's almost like a design build. We're seeking the opportunity to sit down with whoever the decision makers are, see exactly what you guys are looking for, and build the correct solution, be able to submit a proposal for that reason. Because we want to submit what you guys want, and the RFP wasn't clear enough for us to give you guys a proposal that would be exactly what you guys were looking for. So we're just seeking an opportunity to sit down, hear what you guys are looking for, design something.
Sure. Let me defer to Commissioner Sanadicho.
And I appreciate you being here tonight, and that's a technical question, but before we get to answer the question as to what we want to do next, we should actually get into the dialogue on how we want to proceed with the item in a global sense with regards to the actual numbers that we did receive. Even if we invalidate it and we want to rebid it, of course, the RFI was never answered.
Well, I'll tell you
No,
what,
we'll get into that
so
debate
let me
another time.
make a proposal. Can we move 9 up to just after comments from the public? If you wouldn't mind staying, and let's invite you to come back up.
There was much for you guys.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments from the public?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm David Rasmussen. I don't know whether this is the appropriate time to address the issue, but I wanted to make a few comments on the dog regulations in the Rye-Town Park. I've sent a letter out, I think, to almost everybody on the Rye City Council and all of those whose emails worked on the Rye-Town Park Commission. But basically, I think there's a legitimate and fairly strong safety reason for not permitting dogs to roam the park off-leash. Rye-Town Park is already much more liberal than most parks in Westchester County and in Fairfield County and Connecticut in allowing dogs in the park at all. And it seems to me an appropriate compromise for dog owners to be able to use the park with their dogs as long as the dogs are on a leash. But I think dogs roaming, even if there's a restricted area in the park in which they're allowed to roam, sets a bad precedent because, for one thing, it's hard to define exactly what that area is. Once the dogs are off the leash, they're certainly not going to know what the defined area is. And it basically gives the run of the park and endangers many other people who would like to use the park, particularly families with young children. So I'd just like to strongly express very deep reservations about any modification or recommendation of the City of Rye that the leash ordinances that require dogs to be on leashes at all times in any way be advocated. I think we should keep that ordinance in effect, and I think
Thank you, Mr. Emerson, for your comments. Other comments from the public?
Is this the right time?
Yeah, why don't we take the dog policy comments now as well, yep, please.
Thanks.
Yep.
I'm here to advocate for the other side of that coin. We're a group that's been in the park every morning.
For the benefit of those that don't know
Sorry.
you.
My name's Suki Van Dyke. I live in Rye. We're in the park every morning. We're not asking for the run of the park or all hours in the park. But before 9, we haven't had any problems. I mean, I know we've talked about problems with dogs, but our group hasn't had any problems. There aren't any on record that I remember, and I've been there forever. I mean, my oldest dog is almost 10, and my little one is 2.5. The dogs do stay in the defined area because that's where all the other dogs are. And dogs are social animals and like to stay together. I know we have lots of people who come by with kids that don't have dogs and bring their kids over to see us. And it's generally a nice, easy, quiet community thing. So we'd like to ask if you guys make that official instead of having it be the way it has always been. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Dyke. Other comments, please? Please, yeah.
Hi, I'm Linda Bells. I live on Radcliffe Street, Rye. And I think I too have sent an email to all the commissioners with regard to my concern or my objection to having dogs loose. The safety issue, I think, is one that everyone's talked about in terms of vehicular traffic in the park, alcohol use in the park, other issues with regard to safety, but for some reason, animals off leash doesn't seem to be of great concern. The issue really is that if there is a need in the area, within the communities that border Rye Town Park, or that comprise the town of Rye, if there is a need for an open area for dogs to roam, I suggest it's not Rye Town Park. I think for the dog safety and the public at large, which in terms of sheer numbers is exponentially larger than the dog population, that there be a place that can be controlled, open, but confined within a perimeter, can be managed, and I think would serve the general public much better than trying to take a piece of a public park that is an open space that cannot be controlled, and just kind of hope that the honor system will work. I think we all know that that doesn't work. The other issue is once that policy has been put in place and advertised, it's no longer for the benefit of a few people in the immediate area. How do you keep outsiders out? And the issue with regard to the park in general is the lion's share of use of the park is non-residential. So I think it's kind of counterproductive. But by far, I think the safety issue is number one. And then the potential for litigation if, in fact, there is an incident which is inevitable to occur. And it need not be a maiming of a person. It could be an injury to another dog. You just don't know what it will take for someone to litigate. I think that exposes the taxpayers to the town of Rye to the potential of increased expense for insurance as a safety net in case something should happen. Or if litigation occurs, who pays the bill? So I would urge you to consider maybe a collaborative effort to look within each of the communities and see if there is land that's available that could serve the need for people who want to roam, have their dogs roam without jeopardizing the general public. That's basically it. And I must say to you, I want this on the record, I'm speaking as an individual, not a member of the Friends of Rye Town Park. This is a personal opinion. So, I don't want any hate mail. This is a personal situation. But I also think, as I said to the City Council last week, I think that if you really reached out within the immediate communities, even Rye, I think you would find there's a silent majority who'd like to see the dogs on the leash. So I ask you to do the responsible thing and enforce that, but maybe facilitate some resolution that does not involve the park.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Please.
Hi, how are you? My name's Kate Mastelone. I live on Halsted Place. I've spoken on this issue a bunch of times in front of you guys. I hope this is the end to this. I'm just so baffled because I don't know really any other laws that are in place, like the leash law, that people have to continuously come and fight to have enforced properly the way it's written. I don't understand. I know I understand the idea of having a dog run off leash. I'm a big fan of dog runs for dogs. You know, that's great. The idea of a restricted area is completely ludicrous. My daughter, I've told this story a million times, in her stroller at 8 months, pounced on by the duck pond. I've called the police on so many instances by the duck pond, just walking by with my children, and continuously dogs. I have probably 30 letters I think were submitted to you guys already from other families who have had horrible instances with dogs. And I think this is so redundant because if dogs weren't a safety threat, there wouldn't be a law already in place. It's so cut and dry. So I'm just hoping that this, law can be enforced. Dogs should be on leash at all times, and I'm a big fan of what Linda said about finding an alternative area for dogs to run. I don't understand with, Disbro Park or the park that's off of Milton by Playland Parkway. Those are not pedestrian parks. Why can't dogs run in one of those parks? Rydtown Park is a huge pedestrian, family-friendly, open to the public park. There's no reason dogs should be allowed to run freely off their leashes. So I'm really hoping this can be the end to this debate.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Other Councilman Noto, please.
I'm Dan Sommer. I live at 514 Forest Avenue, which is 1 block from the park. My wife and I use the park about 200 times a year. We walk. Believe it or not, I was at the beach today. I walked in the park at 9:30, Rye Beach Avenue in Forest, 3 unleashed dogs. I walked out of the park at 2:30, 4 unleashed dogs, all on the same. So we're not, since Caroline and those folks started with the safety in the park and everything, I've seen a lot less of the dogs. I think the rangers are doing a great job. But the reality is, I've been here for 34 years. I think in the 80s, with dogs on the leash, I actually had one of my kids bitten by an unleashed dog at that time. In the 90s, the park got open to the public, and dogs got open to them. And recently, we've seen the curtailment of the dogs to some extent. Why I'm saying what I'm saying is that you take a group, and it's 5 to 9, and we've got all these new people coming in with more dogs, and this, where are they going to go? Where is it going to be posted? It's 5 to 9, and you got to get your dog out of here. There's no postings at all in the park anywhere. So my feeling is, and I've been here before with this, and I appreciate what the young lady just said. It's a leash law. It's there. Now we're going to give them, one more opening to this when we can't even control. I like one of the rangers to come over the hill and go down. I think we have some trouble with the golf carts maybe coming in Rye Beach. So anyway, it's just one more story you guys have seen before up here. Again, I'm one of the seniors that walks in that park, and we walk around the park most of the time because we just don't want to go through it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Other comments?
Yes, sir. Back again, beating a dead horse. Talking about the lady is here with 2 dogs, and she passed me on May 25th, Rye City Council. He says that I come in 5 wrongdoings, 5 to 6. That's not the case. Second of all, this has all got to do with the dogs. She ran the dogs, and I told them...
I don't want to talk about personal incidents. I'm happy to have you talk on the... We're not going to talk about the personnel policies and personal incidents.
She bashed me on...
Yeah, but I'm not going to have you talk about that. If you want to talk about... I'm happy to have you talk about what you normally do every month, and I'm happy for you to talk about the dog policy. If you you want to talk about the fact that you're unfairly fired, I'm very happy for you to talk about that. If you want to talk about the dog policy, I'm happy for you to talk about that. But was Mr. Mello here, or is he going?
No, Mr. Noto stepped out for a moment.
What?
So, I don't want to talk about, I don't want to, no one up that comes before this board is going to disparage any other citizen. That's the rule.
Mr. Noto.
I'm saying, so I'm not going to have you disparage any other citizen. You want to disparage a public official, you can have Mr. Nowotny, again, you can have me. But you're not going to disparage
Can't
another
talk to
public.
Mr. Nowotny.
No, I'm saying you can, no.
I can't talk to him because he doesn't listen. Right. He does not listen. He speaks out of both sides of his mouth, and he lies besides. But this woman bashed me on May 25th, Rise Council meeting. And I want to get back at her. Because first of all, she doesn't even look like the same woman that I confronted with the dogs. But that's beside the point. But he had no right to do that. I was in trouble 5 or 6 times. One of our guys hit the wall with a golf cart and damaged the wall. Come on. This is ridiculous. You guys better, I think you better think twice before you act. I don't know, it's really ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, questions from the public? Okay. All right. I'm just thinking, does it make sense to go straight to the dog policy since we just heard from the public?
Yes.
You're fine. All right, so I think let's go straight to the dog policy. So, comments, questions from the board. We've just heard some impassioned arguments. We've heard some, I guess, so comments, questions from the board.
Just give an update. The City of Rye had 2 public hearings on this, and the public hearing is still open. Our position is pretty clear. It's if you want enforcement, the cops need to know what the policy is. And my first month on the commission, there was a document that said, Rytown Park policy is dogs must be leashed after 9 a.m. So it's implied that before 9 a.m. they can be off leash. So our city code says dogs must be leashed. There's an inconsistency. Now, as a commission, we can keep that inconsistency. But my understanding is if you really want enforcement, you have to be very clear on what the policy is. And other parks do have a very clear policy, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., locations of the park. Then, if somebody does get a violation, the City of Rye, which will hold the court, has teeth in its code. Our code isn't consistent with what this policy is right now. So we were just asking that if you have this policy in place, let's clarify specifically what it means so that, in fact, as a city within our code, we can codify this policy. The feedback we've gotten in the public hearing has been some people want to move it out to 10 a.m. Some people want to make it all year because it is a little inconsistent that we're doing this for the 3 months when it's the most crowded. And other times of the year it's not as crowded. So people want it to be all year. Other people want us to get rid of the policy altogether. But the City of Rye is not setting the policy. The City of Rye is just trying to codify its code consistent with the wishes of this commission. Somebody mentioned precedent. I've been in Rye 25 years. It's always been assumed that there is some off-leash precedent in the park. And I'm not looking to remove that because it has become a lifestyle for many residents. I would just like to clarify what the policy is.
Before I hear from other commission members, I don't know if Fred or Joe, you want to talk about what your experience has been this summer with the dogs.
I'm Joe Nito, Chief of Security at Rytown Park. Since I've been here in May to date, we've had 107 dog warnings, light warnings, after 9 p.m. We've issued 9 actual written warnings to the offenders in regards to that. And it's a continuing battle. One that many people understand or before, but like the woman said, there's some people that come in after 9 and believe, I don't know, we've had a lot of people